The moment I realized my oldest friend had never actually respected me, we were standing under cheap neon lights at a mini golf course while he made out with his girlfriend beside a fake pirate ship and completely forgot me and my girlfriend were even there. I wish I was exaggerating, but that entire night felt like watching someone slowly peel away 20 years of friendship until there was nothing underneath except ego, insecurity, and convenience. By the time I got back into my car, staring through the windshield with my hands gripping the steering wheel, I honestly felt embarrassed that it had taken me this long to see it. I had known Ethan since we were 4 years old. We met in daycare when two kids stole my crayons and he helped me get them back. At least, that is the story our parents always laughed about. We grew up together after that, same elementary school, same middle school, same neighborhood bike rides during the summer. When people asked who my best friend was, his name came out automatically because it always had. The weird part is that when I look back now as an adult, I can finally see the pattern that was always there. Ethan was only close to me when it benefited him somehow. As kids, I never noticed because kids do not think like that. You assume your friends are your friends because they laugh with you and sit next to you at lunch. But adulthood has a way of replaying old memories with sharper clarity, and suddenly things that once felt normal start looking completely different. In middle school, Ethan started becoming one of those naturally popular guys. He was athletic without trying very hard. Girls liked him early. Teachers loved him because he could charm his way through anything. He had this confidence that made people orbit around him. Meanwhile, I was awkward, quiet, skinny, and anxious around basically everyone. I was the kid who rehearsed conversations in his head before speaking. Ethan was the guy who walked into a room and instantly controlled it. At first, he still included me in things. But the older we got, the more I noticed him changing depending on who was around. When it was just us, he acted normal. But if certain people were nearby, especially girls or the popular crowd, he would suddenly start taking little shots at me. Nothing openly cruel enough to start a fight, just small humiliations disguised as jokes. He would mock the way I dressed, bring up embarrassing stories, interrupt me when I spoke. Sometimes he even joined in when other people made fun of me because it earned him laughs. Back then I convinced myself that was just how teenage friendships worked. Guys teased each other, guys roasted each other. That is what everyone said. But deep down, I remember always feeling slightly smaller around him whenever other people entered the room. By senior year of high school, we drifted apart for a while. He got consumed by sports, parties, and dating. I mostly kept to myself, but near graduation we somehow reconnected again, almost like nostalgia pulled us back together. We started hanging out more, grabbing food, playing video games, talking about college and the future like we were still kids trying to figure life out together. For a little while, it felt real again. Then college happened. The second Ethan built a new social circle, I practically disappeared from his life. Weeks turned into months without hearing from him unless something went wrong for him personally. That became another pattern I ignored for years. Whenever his life was exciting, he vanished. Whenever things collapsed, suddenly my phone lit up again. During college he got deep into partying, not normal partying either. Heavy drinking, drugs, disappearing for days, getting into fights, sleeping with random people, all of it. I heard stories from mutual friends that honestly worried me. There were nights people did not know where he was. Nights he blacked out completely. Nights that ended with cops showing up somewhere. Then one day he crashed hard. I never got the full story, but apparently things spiraled enough that he scared himself. After that, he went completely sober. No alcohol, no drugs, nothing. And suddenly it mattered again because I was safe. I was stable. I was somebody he could hang around without temptation. He started texting me constantly, asking to grab coffee, go hiking, watch movies, talk about life. Part of me felt good about reconnecting with him. Another part of me quietly noticed that I only seemed valuable to him when he needed something emotionally. Around that time I had been dating my girlfriend, Lily, for about a year. She is one of those people who reads others immediately. Calm, observant, impossible to fool. The first few times she spent time around Ethan afterward, she told me something about him felt wrong. Not dangerous, just mean. She said every conversation with him felt competitive somehow. Like he always needed to establish himself above me in subtle ways. If I told a story, he interrupted with a better one. If I mentioned an interest, he mocked it. If I made a joke, he redirected attention back to himself. Lily noticed it instantly because she was not emotionally attached to our history the way I was. I defended him every time. I told her he had been through a lot, that addiction changes people. That underneath everything he was still my friend. Looking back, I think I desperately wanted that to be true because admitting otherwise meant realizing I had spent years chasing validation from someone who barely respected me. Then Ethan disappeared again. Out of nowhere, he quit his job, moved several states away to live near his parents, and started posting vague, depressing things online about needing a reset and figuring himself out mentally. For a few months, he answered texts occasionally, then less and less, until eventually communication stopped almost entirely. I figured he was struggling and gave him space. Then one night another friend casually mentioned Ethan had a girlfriend. That honestly caught me off guard because I had texted him multiple times asking how life was going, and he never once mentioned dating anyone. Not even casually. It felt strange considering how close we supposedly were, but I did not say anything. People are entitled to privacy. Eventually I found her online through tagged photos. Her name was Claire, pretty, outgoing, loud personality. The kind of person who seemed permanently attached to social media captions about adventures and soulmates. At first I was genuinely happy for him because relationships had always been a disaster area in his life. Every girl before this either ended in chaos or emotional dependency. But then I started noticing the old pattern repeating itself almost immediately. He became completely absorbed into her existence. Within weeks they had a dog together. He was constantly posting from her apartment. Every photo looked staged to prove how intensely in love they were. Ski trips, matching outfits, long emotional captions, endless selfies. It looked less like a relationship and more like two people trying to convince the internet they were starring in a romance movie. And once again, everyone else disappeared. Months went by without hearing from him at all. No check-ins, no random conversations, nothing. It was like he only existed inside the bubble of whatever relationship he was currently obsessed with. Then Friday happened. Out of nowhere, Ethan texted me asking if Lily and I wanted to go on a double date with him and Claire at this Italian restaurant downtown. The invitation alone surprised me because he had refused to go there with me multiple times in the past. He always said it was overpriced or pretentious. But suddenly now that he had a girlfriend, it was date night worthy. Lily immediately looked skeptical when I brought it up. She reminded me about every uncomfortable interaction she had already had with him. She said she had zero interest in spending an entire evening feeling insulted, but I convinced her to give it a chance. I told her maybe Ethan was happier now, more grounded. Maybe being in a healthy relationship changed him. I really believed that. That might be the most embarrassing part. We were supposed to meet them at 5. Lily and I arrived around 10 minutes early because we are those annoying punctual people. We parked, checked in at the host stand, and waited outside. 5 o'clock passed, then 5:10. Finally Ethan texted saying they were actually at a different location closer to their apartment and asked if we could drive there instead because it was easier for them. Lily looked at me with that expression that says exactly what she is thinking without speaking. I should have taken that as a warning sign. Instead I laughed awkwardly and told her it was not a huge deal. 15 minutes later we pulled into the second restaurant parking lot and spotted them standing near the entrance. Ethan waved dramatically like we were reuniting after years apart. Claire barely acknowledged us. The second we walked over, the energy felt weird. You know when two people make you feel like an outsider immediately without technically doing anything rude yet. That was the vibe. Claire gave Lily a quick smile that vanished almost instantly, then immediately turned back toward Ethan like we were background characters interrupting their evening. Once we sat down, things somehow became even more uncomfortable. I tried carrying the conversation because nobody else seemed interested in doing it. I asked Ethan how work was going. Claire interrupted halfway through his answer to whisper something in his ear that made them both laugh. I asked Claire about her hobbies and she gave short empty answers before redirecting attention back toward Ethan again. Every conversation attempt died instantly. Meanwhile they were all over each other physically to a degree that honestly felt performative. Not affectionate in a natural way, aggressively affectionate, like they wanted everyone around them to witness how obsessed they were with each other. At one point Claire got up to use the restroom and Ethan smacked her hard across the backside while grinning at us like he expected applause. A few tables nearby visibly reacted. Later she accidentally spilled water across the front of her shirt and Ethan made some disgusting comment about how wet she would be later tonight. Lily stared down at her plate after that. I could feel myself shrinking deeper into embarrassment with every passing minute. The strangest part was how little interest they showed in either of us. They never asked Lily about her work, never asked about our lives, never asked how we had been. Every attempt at conversation somehow redirected back into their relationship. It felt less like a double date and more like being trapped inside somebody else's relationship montage. Then something happened that completely changed the mood for us. Across the restaurant there was a little girl sitting with her family. She was clearly mentally disabled. She kept making loud, excited noises and clapping occasionally while her parents gently tried calming her down. At one point Lily leaned toward me quietly and asked if I noticed Ethan and Claire staring at that table. I had not, but once she pointed it out, I immediately saw it. They kept glancing over, whispering to each other, then laughing behind their hands. Not once, repeatedly. Eventually both of them got up together to go toward the bathrooms. The second they walked away, Lily looked genuinely upset. She works with special education kids, and I have seen firsthand how protective she is around them. She told me she was almost positive they had been mocking the little girl, a child. I remember this heavy feeling settling in my stomach because suddenly everything clicked together in a way I could not ignore anymore. The arrogance, the performative behavior, the constant need to feel above other people. It was ugly once I saw it clearly. Lily quietly told me she wanted to leave. I honestly wanted to leave too, but before I could figure out how to end the night politely, they returned and the awkwardness somehow kept escalating. Claire started talking about a concert they planned on attending. Before she could even explain which band it was, Ethan interrupted loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "Babe, he would not know them. He does not listen to that kind of music at all." The comment itself was so bizarre that I almost laughed. What does that even mean? Even if I had never heard of the band before, normal people still continue conversations. But the way he said it felt dismissive on purpose, like he needed to establish himself as more cultured or interesting somehow. Lily immediately noticed my expression change after that, because honestly, I was getting angry. Not explosive anger. Worse, that slow, humiliating anger where you realize someone has been disrespecting you for years while pretending to be your friend. Dinner finally ended and I assumed everyone would go home. Then Ethan enthusiastically suggested mini golf nearby. Everything inside me wanted to say no, but social anxiety is a powerful thing, and instead of declining like a normal adult, I awkwardly agreed because I did not know how to escape without creating tension. Huge mistake. The mini golf course was crowded with families and teenagers running around under colorful lights. Lily and I genuinely tried making the best of it. We cheered people on, made jokes, tried keeping things light. Ethan and Claire acted like we were invisible. Whenever it was our turn, they wandered away kissing each other near the next hole. They took selfies constantly, whispered to each other, ignored everything we said. Half the time they did not even watch us play. At one hole, Lily got a lucky shot and made a hole in one. Ethan barely looked up from his phone before saying cool in the flattest voice imaginable. A few minutes later Claire missed a shot badly and Ethan reacted like she had won the Masters tournament. He picked her up dramatically while she laughed loud enough for half the course to hear. That was when I finally understood the entire point of the evening. We were not there because they wanted to reconnect. We were there as props. They wanted an audience. At one point Lily and I stopped to use the restroom, and when we came back outside they had already continued several holes ahead without us. No waiting, no text, nothing. We literally had to catch up to them. I remember walking across that course beside Lily feeling emotionally exhausted. Neither of us even wanted to talk anymore because the entire experience felt so bizarrely disrespectful. By the final holes we were rushing through the game just to finish. Then, unbelievably, Ethan suggested getting ice cream afterward. That was my breaking point. I forced a smile, shook his hand, said good game, and told them we were heading home because it was getting late. Neither of them seemed disappointed at all. The second Lily and I got into the car, silence filled the entire vehicle for several seconds. I just sat there staring through the windshield while adrenaline and embarrassment mixed together inside me. Finally, Lily asked quietly if I was okay. And weirdly enough, that question almost made me emotional. Because the truth was I did not feel okay. I felt stupid. I had spent years defending someone who consistently treated me like I mattered less than him. I had ignored every sign because history felt important to me. I thought loyalty meant holding on to old friendships through difficult seasons. But loyalty only works when both people value each other. What really stayed stuck in my head, though, was something Claire accidentally revealed during dinner. She mentioned that Ethan had already met all of her friends and spent time with her entire social circle. Naturally, I asked whether she had met many people from his life yet. Before she could answer, Ethan casually said no. Just you. At the time, the comment barely registered, but during the drive home, it suddenly hit me harder than anything else that night. I was not his closest friend. I was not someone he proudly kept in his life. I was the safe, familiar backup character he pulled out whenever he needed to appear grounded or connected to a past. The reliable old friend who would still show up despite years of neglect because nostalgia made me easy to access. The realization honestly hurt more than I expected, because ending romantic relationships is one thing. People talk about heartbreak from dating all the time, but nobody really talks about the grief that comes from realizing a lifelong friendship was built on uneven ground the entire time. Over the next couple days, Ethan texted me twice. The first message said he had a great time and we should all hang out again soon. The second was just a meme. I never answered either one, and for the first time in my life, I do not think I feel guilty about it. I think I finally understand that history alone is not enough reason to keep someone in your life. Knowing somebody for 20 years does not automatically make them a good friend. Sometimes it just means you have had a front row seat to the same toxic cycle for a very long time. Maybe Ethan will eventually grow up emotionally, maybe he will not. Honestly, that is no longer my responsibility to figure out. What I do know is this: real friends do not make you feel small in order to feel bigger themselves. Real friends do not disappear every time something more exciting comes along. And real friends definitely do not invite you out just to treat you like an extra in their performance. That night at the mini golf course felt uncomfortable while it was happening. But looking back now, I think it was necessary. Because sometimes the final straw is not one huge betrayal. Sometimes it is just one painfully awkward night that finally forces you to see the truth that has been standing in front of you for years.